Hello, my sweet ones. Welcome back to Pleasurable Success. I am so excited for our guest today. We have an incredible, powerful, and really multidimensional woman, and that is the theme of our podcast today. I'm going to go ahead and allow her to introduce herself to you, and then we'll dive into all the juiciness.
Yay. Thanks so much for having me, babe. I'm just super excited about this collab, and I'm super excited to just jam with you and jam with your audience and jam with your people and your community for the next however long we go. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Keira Noelle, and I am a multidimensional creator, and I like to say muse as well, because I think we're our own best muse. I guide visionary souls, body-based leaders, feminine entrepreneurs on a journey back home to themselves, but also really recognizing that, our mission, our dharma, our purpose in the world is really to be fully expressed, and I really, I have such a passionate drive, like an insatiable desire to guide other women, female entrepreneurs into a really expansive and beautiful experience in their business, allow their soul growth to be just a reflection in their business, allow all parts of them to be on the table, to be seen, to be honored. Really create monumental success, like legacy caliber success, by just being the truth of who they are. And I'm excited to just dive into whatever juiciness is going to come up together.
Me too. I will also say that this collab was a requested collab by our dear friend Riley. So shout out Riley for making this happen for us. Amazing. Well, I'm so happy to have you here. And I would love to just get an overview of how you got to where you are today and what's that journey been like for you, because there's a lot of women listening who are probably like, wow, I want to be what Kiera's doing. I want to be like that. Has this always been your life? Like, has this always come natural to you? What has kind of led you to this point?
Yeah, I love this question. And I also never fully know how to answer it because it's such a loaded question, and it's like, well, how much time do we really have,
Totally.
to go into this? So I will say that, helping others, holding space for others, serving others, and just being super passionate about doing something in the world, and really having that desire for more. Yeah. It's like, not that what's here isn't enough. And I think this is like a little bit of a trap that we get into. It's like, oh, well, if I want more, that means where I'm at is not enough. And that's not the case. It's just like, I want to squeeze out every last drop of this life, And so that desire and that, married with just this like heartfelt, warmth to help others has always been there. That I can for sure say. However, the confidence and the power and the kind of really landing in who I am, that's been a journey, like I feel like I've been on a lifelong journey to land deeper back into myself, to come home. And there's been many catalysts along the way. I suffered from a severe eating disorder. I actually had to take time off university. Well, my parents pulled me out of university because I was resisting that.
Yeah.
So I took time off university to really dive deep into my own inner journey. And so I was in my late teens, I was so young. And while I was actually healing and recovering, I was sexually abused as well. So there was 2 back-to-back and very deep dark nights of the soul for a very young and tender girl, and that girl still lives within me. And I have so much compassion for her because she had every reason and truthfully right to just say, hey, you know what, fuck this. Like, I'm going to close down. This world is a scary place. I feel like I don't belong. My body doesn't feel like home. My surroundings don't feel like home. The people around me don't feel like home. And yeah, there was every reason for her to just shut down, and, bless her, because it's that version of me that I still remember, it's going to make me emotional. It still carries me to this day. And, so those are like the 2 big catalysts. And I was young, and I remember even in my late teens, my parents were my biggest supporters in all of this. And there got to a point where they actually didn't know what more to do. You know, I saw counselors, I saw therapists, I saw you name it. And one day my dad, he came to me and he was like, hey, like I've booked you a plane ticket to go to Tony Robbins. And at this point, I had no idea who Tony Robbins was. I really wasn't into the personal development world at that point.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like little tender, vulnerable, insecure me, took that plane ticket, flew to Chicago. I'm from Toronto in Canada. So flew to the States and really got her ass kicked at a Tony Robbins event alone. But it was, you know, it was just a series of events that it was almost like life's way of humbling me and bringing me to my knees, that there was almost like no other choice but to choose this path, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and that has just been a compounding experience for, I mean, up until this day, you know, up until this moment that we are speaking. And it's only actually been in the last 2-3 years that I've actually created a container, a business to really take everything that I've been through from, you know, late teens to early 20s to mid 20s to now late 20s, and really look at myself in the mirror and say, you have something to share here. You have something to bring to this world, and this needs to be shared, you know, this needs to be expressed. And yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I feel like there's so many paths we could go down with that.
No, that's so beautiful. And I wrote down some things that I would love to just go deeper into with you. And the first one was like, I can't not share my story. I cannot not share my journey with people because there's so much medicine inside of what you have experienced in your life and all the obstacles, right? There's so much medicine inside of that. And for the woman who maybe has this little like intuitive nudge of like, oh, like I know I have such a story that can change lives and can shift paradigms and can actually leave that legacy that you were talking about. What got you to the point where you actually felt this sense of like duty, like a sacred obligation to actually share this? And what would you say to the woman who was like on the edge?
I love this question. I actually have chills as you're saying this. I love this question. So I'm going to get a little bit weird here, and I don't mean this in a religious way at all. I am not religious.
I love it.
But in a very, you know, spiritual way. There's this one, I'm also born on Christmas, so I resonate to the unconditional love of that frequency, you know? Anyway, there's this Bible quote and it goes, I'm going to butcher it, but it goes something like, what you keep inside of you will destroy you. What you don't bring forth will destroy you. What you bring forth will save you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And essentially the message is, you know, what you are meant to share, you can't cut it off. You can't hide away from it. You can't eat it away. You can't exercise it away. You can't fuck it away. Like it's going to come out. And the more that we just, it'll feel scary because it's all of you being seen. Yeah. It's all of you being, you know, vulnerable and intimate with the world. And the paradox is we so deeply crave to be intimate with the world and each other and just have an intimate experience, a connected experience to ourselves and to life. And it's also the very first place that we can so easily shy away from. And you know, to the woman who feels like she has that like calling that she just can't get away from, you know, it's like, even if I tried to get away from this, I couldn't, right? That is, you know, that's a gift. And it may seem like, oh, who am I to do this? Right. And the easy thing to say is, well, who are you not to do it? For sure. But, you know, to just have that nudge, you know, to have that desire is such a blessing. And I think the more that we can actually hold that nudge and that frequency and that insatiable desire for, expressing ourselves and being connected with so much more gratitude and so much more compassion. It's like, it's not necessarily about the end goal. And like, yes, it's the legacy, but it's the walk that you take. Yeah. It's like, people are going to remember the walk that you take. And so give that insatiable desire that just like every day is pinging at you, like give it grace. Yeah. Like give it attention, give it your love, and just, it's almost like nurture that desire, and that desire is going to lead you. Yeah. Versus figuring out what you need to do to prove the desire right. That makes sense.
Yes. Or talk yourself out of the desire.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's actually funny that you bring that up, because today, as I was getting ready for the podcast, I was just thinking about how many women there are like talking themselves out of their desires, because they're big and they're scary, and we haven't been taught to hold them, and we don't really know where they lead us. But I love that you mentioned continuing to have and like walk with gratitude for that, because it really is a gift.
Totally.
And I'll add on to it too, like the driving force, because that whisper that we're talking about, ladies who are listening to this, that whisper, it just becomes a scream that you cannot ignore. And whenever you do decide to listen, like it is inevitable, I will say that to some extent, even if it just serves one person, like that's a beautiful impact in itself.
Totally. Oh my God, totally. Yeah. And, I really love that, because I think that's what, what holds us back actually the most is just like, oh my God, like I have this big vision, and then it's like, I need to live out this big vision tomorrow. And I get that, I definitely have that big, ambitious Capricorn energy that's like, yeah, let me just do it all, and I can do it all tomorrow and then some,
Totally.
But I've really gotten to become super present with the nuances, and how powerful the nuances of this journey are. And that's actually why too, I'm very passionate about being a body-based business coach and like leader, because I've had such a journey of coming home to this physical vessel, but also knowing that this physical vessel is like the intersection of the tangible and the intangible world. So it's like, yes, we can hear our intuition. Yes, we can feel all of the things. Yes, we can, have all the emotions, but like this vessel is the translation system. Yeah. And so it's like in order to translate our big visions that we see and we fantasize about in our mind and that we know we're meant for, and like the intuitive inner GPS nudges that are coming through us, there's got to be a bridge, and the body is that bridge, right? And it's only been, I would say these past, 18 months or so, 16, 18 months that I've really just devoted to bringing forth that medicine, because I've been doing it my whole life, not just in a business way, but for myself, truly tuning into my body saves me. And it has been my guiding light for, decades now. And so I really, really am so passionate about, those nudges are not an accident. Those nudges are not just, oh, that's cute. Let me just continue on living. Those nudges are there for a reason. And slowing down to the sacredness of, what our body is telling us, and that we are literally getting feedback from, something greater than us to move through us, is like, how can I not hold this with so much, grace and tenderness and gratitude and also passion, to live this out.
Yeah. I love that you bring up a body-based business. That's like my deep passion, because mine was actually quite the opposite. Like I completely neglected and ignored my body and everything that it told me for decades and decades and decades. Because I didn't even think that was like a thing. I was like, no, you think with your mind, you don't listen to your body, you listen to your mind. And that was actually something when you were talking earlier about like resisting leaving university. And even though your body was like, you know, probably screaming like, leave. I know personally that switch of like, my mind is telling me this, but my body is craving this, and trusting your body is such a journey in itself. And so what was the resistance? What was the resistance to leaving university?
Wow, I've never been asked that question. This is cool. I like it. Yeah, people are always just like, oh, cool, you went to university, like you got a business degree, you did your thing. And I was like, yeah, no, it was hell for me. Like it was hell. And so I think there's a couple layers to this. There was a resistance from my mind, like you said, you know, there's a resistance from my mind and an identity that I had to be a successful businesswoman before I explored this whole path, right? Remember, this is like late teens. I was still like literally a teeny bopper at this point. Like I was still a baby. I was actually 17 when this happened. So yeah, I went to university young and also left university young and then went back to university to finish my degree. So the resistance there that I was tuning into was, you know, my body was screaming, this is soul suicide. Like this is not what you're meant to do. You're not meant to sit in a cubicle. You're not meant to be here 9 to 5. You're not meant to learn about how to sell widgets, you know, from 1942. Like none of this is feeding you. But my mind, one, held on to the identity of being that, you know, successful businesswoman, right? So to not follow through on that identity, I was like, what? Where's the safety, right? But the other thing too, the deeper resistance was I still was holding on to, you know, wounds from my childhood of wanting to please my dad. And so to stay in university was really like, the deeper layer to that was if I stay in university, I still get daddy's love. Right. And so there was a really big feeling of if I'm not in university, even though he saw how sick I was, even though he was an advocate for me to take time off, even though all of that, there was still a deep part of me that felt, holy shit, if I'm not in university, I might, like, his love might abandon me. Right. I might not live up to his expectation. And all I wanted to do was prove that I was like good enough for him. Yeah. So, you know, internal childhood wounds and patterns mixed with my mind saying, hey, like this is an identity thing, then coupled with resistance from my body being like, no, this is not for you. This is not the truth of who you are. This is not what you're meant to do right now, you know? And ultimately I did listen to my body and I took a year off university. I did go back and finish my degree after that, but I never worked in a cubicle or I never worked in a traditional job after that because I took the assignment, you know, I heard God literally on my knees so many times during my recovery of like, you are meant for so much more and your body is your GPS there.
I have chills. I have so many chills. And I'm so happy that I asked that question. Because just when like you were first explaining your story, like the resistance to university really stood out to me because it's just such a symbolic, like, you know, it's very symbolic because there's so many women who are getting called to do something that their mind is like, bitch, no. Like, what do you mean? That's not the right path. That's not the path to success. That's not what you're supposed to do. That's not what your parents want you to do. People are going to judge you, right? There's so much resistance collectively as a society to doing the thing that you're not supposed to do, even when your body is like, no, go, follow it. And I would love for you to speak to maybe that past version of you, but for the woman listening, like that big, scary thing and trusting your body, trusting your desires. what point, what was the shift that was like, no, I can't not listen to this anymore. I have to trust my body.
Totally. So it got to the point where, I mean, I'll give you some hindsight.
Fuck yeah.
2020
I love
vision.
hindsight.
Yeah, like the hindsight vision. But in it though, truthfully in it, the thing that was a tipping point for me was feeling like, okay, I'm sitting with this resistance to drop deeper into my body and to actually live out these desires. Yes. But the resistance to go back to where I was and to let my mind lead was so much more constrictive. It was so much more it was harsh, it really, I wouldn't say it was scary, but the contrast of those, it was a contrast. That's all it was, is I felt the contrast of, oh my God, going back into a situation, of what I should do felt like I could not breathe. It felt suffocating. And the excitement and the fear of my desire, yeah, it was there, but it didn't feel suffocating. It was expansive. And and for me as a human, this may resonate with, the woman listening, but for me as a human being and who I know I am to be, I learn through contrast. It's like, I can feel the experience of what I don't want. And then I can also feel the experience of what I do want. It's like, I need to feel that contrast. Yeah. And sometimes, and it doesn't have to be dramatic, but it's just, if you know what you don't want, you're going to be opened up to what you do want. Right. And so that was a big thing for me. I was in university and it was my final year. And it was like a bunch of self-talk of, I'm just going to get through this. And I know that what's on the other side of this is so much bigger than I can even comprehend, that it's going to be okay. Right. But I know for a fact that if I choose anything that's a traditional way of doing life, that's a traditional way of doing business, that just puts me into a mold, I'm literally going to suffocate. Like, it felt like suffocation. So
yeah,
I graduated from university and I never looked back. I traveled the world. I did all of these beautiful courses. I went into energy work. I was a yoga teacher. I taught retreat. Like, I did so much.
yeah.
And not necessarily because I needed to do it, but the path just kept unfolding for me. It kept leading me and guiding me and leading me and guiding me. Yeah, I feel like that feels good. It's the contrast. It was a contrast experience.
Yeah. I love that. And I love that you spoke to the contraction and the suffocation, because there's a lot of women, and I know I've had this conversation with them. They feel like they're suffocating.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important to take note of that, because your breath, right? That's your life force. And if you're putting yourself in a position that is literally suffocating you, you are cutting yourself off from life, from being alive, right? Even if your heart's still beating. It's like, and I know, because I've been like, when you were describing that, I was like, oh my God, yes. Every day when I would step into the doors of my 9-to-5 job, it was like, oh, I can't breathe here.
Yeah.
And wow, it's actually just such a full circle moment that we're even talking about this, because I went multiple trips to the hospital saying to the doctors, I cannot breathe. And they're like, no, you're fine. I'm like, no, I can't take a deep breath. Like, and they wouldn't believe me, but there wasn't necessarily something very physical, right? It was stress. It was misalignment. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, because I think you can relate.
Oh my gosh, babe. Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that. That's big. I can feel that. And as you say that suffocating feeling is, yeah, it's our body talking to us, right? And both being really passionate about body-based leadership. Like, this is huge. And it's not something that our mind should try to intellectualize, because it doesn't come, it's like our feelings don't come from that place. They don't come from an intellect. That's why there are feelings, right? So, and something you just kind of reminded me of in that moment, it's like the feeling of suffocation. Yeah. The feeling of like, that you can't breathe is a very real sensation, right? And to listen to that sensation is, is what we are here to do, for sure, to discern which path we're going on.
Absolutely.
But with that, you know, and I think this is important to share, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, doing business is a walk in the park, you know, and
oh yeah,
that fear, excitement frequency, like it's on the same frequency. Yeah. The fear and the excitement. And, you know, there's mornings where I wake up and it's just like anxiety just like floods my body because there's like a bigness happening, or I'll post something on, just before I post something on social media, it's like, I get all the feels, you know, I'll get sweaty and I'll get chills, and it'll be like almost like a vulnerability hangover. Like those things are very real experiences that, you know, as a business owner, and I feel like it's just like the fear excitement frequency is a perfect illustration of it. As a business owner, like you are committing to walk with duality. You are committing to walk with that polarity, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong. That doesn't mean that there's something bad. It just means that you're actually, you know, your skin's in the game. You're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think there's just been a little bit of an over exaggeration of, you know, feminine business just means that it's all ease, right? And while that's true, it's like the ease is how we approach the situations. It's like, okay, cool. What am I going to do with this? Am I going to throw like my, you know, inner feminine kind of flimsy hissy fit, or can I actually put my boss babe hat on and see this from a new perspective? Right.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it's just, you know, these nuances I've just learned throughout my whole journey, you know, how important they are, of like, okay, suffocation and feeling like, you know, you and I both, it's like we can't breathe. That's a huge indication of me being out of alignment. But me feeling a little bit afraid and me feeling like a vulnerability hangover, that's okay. That's me opening myself up to actually let more life in.
Yeah, that discernment is everything. Yeah, that's actually really, really, I'm glad you spoke to that, because I think that there's a little bit of like an overlap of like, oh, well, I feel contraction about showing up on social media and speaking my truth. And it's like, is it contraction, or is it fear saying like, this is new and this is scary. This is something, there's uncertainty there. And in addition to that too, speaking on like the feminine led business and infusing ease, I actually wrote an entire post on this. So it's hilarious that, but also of course you bring this up. There's your entrepreneurial journey is not going to be easy, but you have a choice to infuse ease into it. And that's, I think, like a different way of just saying exactly what you just said.
I love that. It's the condensed way, and I'm all here for it. It's like simplify it. Sometimes I'm just like, I'll go on a ramp and it's just like shit comes out. But I love that you just condense that to like, you know, chef's kiss kind of one line mantra. There you go.
I literally was like, I just wrote a post on this, so I can just like, it was the hook, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you for speaking to that. Okay. I also want to talk to you about musing. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So, okay. Musings as in my podcast, musings as in where do you want to go down with this? Where do you want to...
Let's talk about musing and why it is so important to be your own muse. And we can also go into like the multidimensional aspect of it too, because I think that'll speak to my audience as well.
Okay. Okay, cool. So let's start with the multidimensional aspect of it. I realize that word gets thrown around so much in just like the space, and, you know, there's a lot of buzzwords and like cute words, and that's cool, but it actually, you know, just, I can honestly say that just as me dropping into my body has truly saved my life in so many different areas. The context of multidimensional and allowing that to be a context that holds me and my expression in this life, that has also saved me, because I spent part of that suffocating feeling was trying to, you know, show three sides of a diamond and not show all sides of the diamond. Right.
Ooh, yes.
And so I lived a lot of my life, you know, like being the girl who, you know, did well in school, not because I really wanted to, but because I was hard on myself and wanted to please my dad. So, you know, being the girl who did well in school, and then also being an athlete, but then also being really girly and also being super feminine and just like wanting to be this hopeless, romantic, mushy, sensitive thing. Right. And having major contrasting experiences, but feeling like I was almost wrong for having that. Yeah.
Yes.
And there was actually a lot of shame about, because I just didn't fit one mold, I almost carried the shame and guilt within me of like, well, who am I really? And am I really authentic? Because I have all of these things, all these passions, you know, that I love to do and I love to experience. And not from necessarily an outsider perspective, but it was almost like an identity crisis for me, you know? And I'm like, well, do I need to pick one? And then business will tell you, now you need to go pick one niche. And you're like, wait, what? Like, so
I can't stand it.
yeah, exactly. And school will go tell you to just like choose one course. Right. And so it was all these like pigeonholing of like, I just felt like I just kept hearing to choose one thing and one thing and one thing. And I was neglecting, you know, the bigness of who I am. And so it wasn't, I don't even know where I heard that word first, but it wasn't just like, oh, cool, I saw that and that feels good. I literally heard that word and it like, it struck a chord in me, you know, and I adopted it as like my own savior in a way, not in like, oh my God, save me, but it really, it spoke to me so deeply that it held me. Like I can't even put it into words that what that word really means to me, because it really is, it's a safe container where I can just like rest easy and know all parts of me are welcome. All parts of me are home. All parts of me can be seen here. And I don't have to choose one or make one better than the other. The only thing that I actually need to do is really tune into what's alive in this moment. Who wants to show up? Which part of me wants to show up in this moment? And that's been, you know, that's the trust exercise of life right there. You know, it's like the context that holds me is to be a multidimensional woman. And to be a multidimensional woman means to trust your expression in every moment. And now marry that with business, and you've got this massive pattern interrupt in society that they're like, wait, first of all, who are you to be a business owner? Second of all, who are you to let your sensitivity be in business? And third of all, who are you to even give yourself permission to do any of this? You know? So it's that whole experience and journey was probably the biggest coming home that I've had ever. And it still is, you know, a North Star for me. I actually have a North Star tattooed on my wrist, and that's what it's for. It's like to always remember my North Star.
Yeah.
And that energy is the energy of a muse, you know, that is the one where the woman who can really, marry, integrate, and dance with all parts of herself, she walks through life as a muse. She really does. And not from an egoic perspective, but you just look at females who have that energy and you're like, wow, I don't know what they're on, but whatever it is, I want some of that. And that's the energy of, you know, being a muse and being your own muse and allowing your musings, AKA your experience, the embodiment, your energy, your essence to just speak for you.
I have so like literally, I don't know if you can see these goosebumps all over my fucking body. I don't know if you have watched Love, Sex, and Goop yet.
I haven't, but everyone's been telling me to watch it.
Watch it. There's this one part where she's like, you know, goosebumps are a sign that every single one of your pores is having an erection. And I'm like, I'm having erections on every single pore right now.
Oh my God, I love that. Obsessed.
Yes, it's amazing. But I just want to like take a second to thank you, because that right there means so much to my inner child. And I know to the inner child of and probably even still the woman that they are today, who thinks that they need to fit themselves in a box and in a category. It is the ultimate permission slip to be all of you. And so I just want to say thank you, because that work is so incredibly needed. And the more we have multidimensional women who own that, right? Who own that they're actually not in a box. They don't need to pigeonhole themselves. They get to be all of it, whatever it is. The more beautiful this world will be. And, you know, I think it's actually quite funny because, you know, you think about the girls that maybe, I know for me personally, as I was a kid and a teenager, I would look up to these women who like seemed to like know who the fuck they were. And they were like dressed, you know, in their style, and they had this attitude, and that was like their attitude. And then I was like, oh, but like, should I be like that? Right. And then I try to be like that, but then I'd be like, oh, but there's this other woman who's like really soft and really feminine, and I'm like, should I be like that? Right. There's all this like, oh my God, like, who am I? And that's that identity crisis that I know I experienced. I'm sure the listeners have experienced this to some extent. It's like, really, who am I? And that right there is so restricting, because you think that you're supposed to be a type.
Oh my God.
And yeah, like, so I just want to praise you and say thank you, because so many women need that permission slip to be this like gothic badass rock star, and the girl romantic who wears pink and is very feminine and gets her nails done. And you know, I like to say I'm a luxury dirtbag. I am like I go rock climb and camp and, you know, pee in the woods and all of that. And then I'm also like, no, I need like a really sexy luxury Jeep and a really nice apartment. I want to get my hair done and wear cute makeup. Like, and the more I would try to like, no, I need to just be that outdoorsy girl, or no, I just need to be, it's like I'm cutting myself off from my truth.
Yes. Chills. Erections. Yeah, no, it's exactly that, babe. Literally. I mean, thank you. I received that so deeply. And you just said it, you know, it's like the moment that you try and literally pick one, you're cutting yourself off from your truth. And I hear you, you know, I actually love that luxury dirtbag.
Right.
I feel that, you know, I grew up with all males. My family was dominant in males. It was like more uncles, more boy cousins. I only have a brother. It was just, I was surrounded by guys all the time. And yet I'm a deeply feminine being, you know, and my mom would always say, she was like, you know, your sensuality is going to get you in trouble one of these days. Right. And whatever, bless her. It wasn't manipulative or in a weird way. It was just at that time, you know, that generation, that was their truth. But I feel that, you know, I feel that when I grew up playing basketball, like basketball was my first love.
Me too. Oh my gosh. I love that.
Really? That's hilarious. Yeah. I played basketball for like 15 years, like really high level. And my dad was like, you need to go, like, honestly wanted me to go to University of basketball. And I was like, no, fuck no. Like, this is just like a fun thing that actually really has helped me. I think it was like therapy in a weird way for me.
For sure.
But yeah, it was like, I want to go do my competitive swimming. I want to go play basketball, but I'm also like, I want to be like wined and dined, and I want to love myself, and I want to pleasure myself, and I want to do all the like delicious feminine things, you know? And I'm bougie. Like, I am a bougie fucker, but I can also go camp in the woods, you know? So I get it, babe. You know, I feel that. And I resonate so hard with that. And I think, you know, just marrying that a little bit to business. And I've definitely had my own journey with that, right? It's, and still, right, there's still parts of me that are coming online, even in my own business. But I feel like this is just such an important message with, you know, the day and the age and the time, and like this intersection, time, space, reality of where we're at right now in humanity is pretty fucked and pretty ripe. And the main message is that, you know, you don't have to translate yourself to create a business. That makes sense, right? It's like, you don't have to translate yourself through a business model to get your expression out to, it's like, it's going through all these filters of who you are to just have a business. I think even the word business may kind of get us tripped up. It's like, yes, we have an entity, but the business is the masculine structure that just supports our feminine. So the more that we can, honor the etheric four walls of our business, that are just holding us, the easier it will be for us to just give ourselves permission to say, hey, you know what? Like today, I feel like I'm ovulating and I feel like I'm in my bad bitch CEO mode. So I'm going to let her, play. Maybe 2 weeks from now, when you're totally in your moon and your womb cave, you're really deep in your sensitivity and your tenderness, and that's okay too. Right. But there is, there's a massive courage that comes with that, right? It's not a path that has been walked before. And, to sit here and say, just go and share your multidimensional phases and expressions of who you are is a lot easier said than done, right? Because there is that inner child who's like, but I just want to be loved and liked. And this identity has been loved and liked. So why would I put on another identity? Right. Yeah. And I just kind of want to, almost soothe anyone's inner child that's kind of coming up right now saying, yeah, that's all exciting, but how the fuck do I do that? Like, how do I give myself permission to do that? And it takes time to find safety in your expression and let yourself be seen and witnessed in that. And yet that is the deep intimacy and the deep connection that we crave.
Yeah. And so where could the woman start? Where could they start? And I know you have your Multidimensional Muse Mastermind, and I'm sure that's an incredible place to get started in that. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I do feel like being in deep sisterhood has healed me in ways that I wouldn't have got anywhere else. Like, honest to goodness, it is potent. It is sacred medicine. And so, yes, I am currently in a launch of a business mastermind, quote unquote business mastermind. But it's a multidimensional mastermind, right? And so we are not going to leave any part of your life out. All parts of you get to be put on the table, just like all parts of you get to be present in your business. And, the one major thing that I'm really passionate about is exactly what we just talked about. Letting yourself be held and seen and witnessed in your vulnerability and in your strength and in your behind the scenes and in your relationship and in your personal breakdowns or whatever it is with other sisters who are literally walking that path is so fucking vulnerable, but so much medicine. I was just held in my own mastermind. I invested in one for the last 11 months of this year. So pretty much all of this year.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time I've been in a mastermind, but I completed 2 rounds because I actually wanted to go deeper into my edge of being seen and being witnessed. And I think that there's a big thing here with committing to not only your growth, but committing to your growth with other people. And staying when you want to leave. Yeah. And like sharing yourself when you want to collapse. And I mean, I am an advocate for private coaching and I fucking adore my private clients, and I always will, always have. They're just phenomenal. And also I encourage everyone to also let themselves be seen and held and witnessed in a group. And this is why this high touch mastermind is so powerful, because it is an intimate space. It is by application only. So I'm intentional for sure of who comes in to create that safe container. But that is solely just like the landing pad. It's like the home base for everyone to just land in, that they know that they're safe, they're seen, they're held, they've got sisters on the same path. And then they get to go and shine their light in the world and allow their soul growth to be their business growth as well. And I feel like I almost was born to run masterminds. Because that's what I love. I love that intimate connection, high touch container, and that community, that sense of I know these women have my back. You know, I know that we're riding together. I know that we're rising together. I know that we're being courageous and vulnerable together. And there's nothing more powerful than just having a group, a container that has the same vision, the same energy, the same momentum. Like it's untouchable. And
Yeah.
so anyway, that's my mastermind energy vibe.
That was so powerful.
In a nutshell. Yeah. So I'm taking applications right now. It'll start in 2022. And I just see this industry really continuing to take off. And, you know, I'm not going to lie, there's so many masterminds out there. There's a million masterminds out there. And I also love that because it just shows how needed they are, you know, how needed it is to just be seen and held and witnessed by other females, and the healing that comes from that, and the healing that you get to bring forth in your business, and the light that just gets to be completely rippled in those spaces is unlike anything else. Like there is nothing more powerful than a group of multidimensional fucking women together who are like, yeah, we're going to do this thing.
Mm-hmm. I second that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I hope that gives you skin erection tingles.
Oh, it did. It gave me so many erections on my body. Oh, I love that. And I can't stress it enough for the listeners. What Kiera is speaking on is so incredibly important. If you've never been inside of a container and a sisterhood and just a space with women who want to see you win and are on a similar path, they're not always on the same path, but they're on a similar path. Mm-hmm. There's really is just nothing like it. And it's so healing for this world because women have not been taught to be loved on each other. They've been taught to hate on each other and to shame each other. And there's still a lot of that in this world, but the more we can step into these spaces and these containers and be held by powerful leaders of this work, the more we get to heal the planet. Because like you just said, it is truly unmatched, the power of those types of containers. Yeah. So if you haven't experienced it, even if you're listening to this and you're not even in business for yourself, get inside of a container of powerful fucking women.
Yeah. It's, honestly, like I don't even think I have words. It's so funny when people are like, explain your mastermind. I'm like, you gotta be in it to experience it, you know? And like, I know that sounds really cheesy. I mean, yes, we do, you know, my big thing is I do want to marry and be an advocate for how important it is to do the energy, the soul, the deep, like the inner work to do that. And also have strategy and also have structures that are in place to support you, you know? Mm-hmm. So it is a dance of like your inner masculine, your inner feminine, the soul work and the strategy structures, let's call it. Mm-hmm. And I just, you know, it's almost like that's all fine and dandy, but the real juice is coming together in community and sisterhood. And I've even had private clients say to me, you know, before in the past, they're like, I want to be in this mastermind, but it feels safer to be a private client right now. And those are the ones that I literally am like, okay, and your expansion edge is to be seen and to be witnessed. So not only are you going to get, you know, private high touch from me, but now you're going to be seen and witnessed in front of, you know, other women. And that's a space for a business owner to go meet that edge, to go meet themselves there. And, you know, I will never, you know, make a decision for someone, right? Like mm-hmm. This is totally up to you. Apply if you truly want to be there, but also know as a business owner is relationships are everything. The business stuff is the business stuff. The mind can figure it out. The logic can figure it out, but the relationships are the key to the game. And so it's like, okay, cool. Well, if the relationships in your life are like, yeah, you know what? I want that type of community. The mastermind is totally the place to be.
Beautiful. And where do you like to hang out the most so they can go find you?
Instagram is my jam for sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I know in the show notes, you'll just put all the yummy details. But yeah, Instagram is definitely my jam. I like to think that my Instagram stories are like way better than watching Netflix. And I actually adore, adore Instagram stories. Yeah, they're such a like creative outlet for me. So
I so agree. I'm in this like really love-hate relationship with Instagram right now that I'm trying not to give my power to, but like, I love the creative outlet of it. And I love showing up. Like, that's my thing, but I'm also like, let me fully show up. Let me say the word sex.
Yeah. Instagram's a bit of a funny place in that realm for sure. Right now.
Amazing. Well, all of your information and all of your links will be in the show notes. So ladies listening to this, be sure to check this incredible human being out. And I always like to ask this one question to all of my podcast guests. And I have a feeling I know what your answer might be, but I'm curious. I'm still going to ask it. Obviously, the name of the podcast is Pleasurable Success. So how could the women listening to this podcast make their success a more pleasurable experience?
Bring all of you to the table. Yeah. Yes. Just let yourself be seen, let the uncomfortable, crunchy moments be a catalyst for you to be like, yeah, and guess what? I can still be fucking seen in this.
All of it, baby.
Yeah.
Amazing. This has been such an honor and such a pleasure.
Thanks, my love. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, because there's a lot of women, a lot of men, a lot of humans that need to hear this medicine. So go share it with someone you love. And I'll see you next episode.